Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Storm, and this week we're going to focus on more objects that we can integrate with Bootstrap, such as alerts, buttons, icons, pages, pagination techniques, stuff like that. So we're going to cover a ton in this video, and I'm going to go through it kind of quickly. Remember, all this information is available on w3schools.com if you get lost or if you want to look through this stuff again. We're going to cover quite a bit, but we're not going to cover everything in W3 Schools. So you're definitely going to want to look at those resources as well. So let's first talk about alerts. Alerts are actually kind of helpful. What alerts allow us to do is when we tie alerts with JavaScript, we can have alerts pop up on the screen whenever something happens, like maybe you entered the wrong information or we need something new or whatever. So let's go ahead and create a couple of alerts. The first one I'm going to create is a success alert. So I create a new div, I give it a class that is called alert and alert success. Okay. And then what we do is inside the alert, we can create some, we can write some text. So I'm going to make the first word really strong. Success. And then I'll put some space here. You enter the right password or whatever, right? Now, when I save this, let's save it and open my page, we can see I now have a green section. It's all highlighted in green, and then I have my text is all formatted properly. That's basically what an alert is. Let's take a look at a negative alert. Oh, so let's just copy all of this because it's basically the same. And instead of alert success, we're going to call this alert warning. Now, let's do danger because that's fun. That's red. So there are 4 different types of alerts. We can do success, which is green, info, which is blue, warning is yellow, and danger is red. So we're going to use a danger one right here. We're going to say, uh-oh. Why did you type that? Okay, and I'm actually going to wrap this one into a container just so that you can see how that works as well. Remember, we can wrap containers around everything that we write to kind of section it off. I can even use the grid system here as well to put my alerts into different grids and organize them properly. So let's put this guy inside of the container. All right. Actually, those need to, yep, there we go. And I will get rid of him here. Oh, get rid of him down here. We will save and let's open up our page. So now I have, you can see it has rounded corners. This one has rounded corners as well, but you can't really tell because it's spanning the entire length of the page. And again, remember, because this is Bootstrap, it is all uh, uh, agile program or agile web pages, and it can shrink and grow with the screen size. Perfect. All right, so that's alerts, and there's a lot you can do with alerts. They're pretty easy. You can have a link or put links inside of alerts. You can have a little X on the end of alerts to close them off. There are all kinds of stuff you could do with alerts. Let's talk about buttons. Buttons are awesome, right? We love buttons. Buttons are great. Now, Bootstrap gives us an entire set of button presets that we can use. All we have to do is create the button first. So let's create a new button, and we'll say type equals button, and we'll give it the Bootstrap class, btn, and this is going to be just a very basic button. This is basic. Oh, I forgot my equal sign there. And let's save it and open our page. So now I have a very basic button. It's clickable, right? But it looks pretty boring. Let's say we want to do something cool. Let's do a primary button. I like those because they're blue, and I like blue. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, copy, paste, and we'll make this class is btn, btn hyphen primary. And we'll make this we'll say this is primary, save, open that up again. So now we have our primary button, or a different kind of button. And there's all kinds. You can have gray buttons, white buttons, blue, green, a nice teal color, orange, red. You can have a link button. There's all kinds of stuff you could do with buttons. You can change the size of your button, make it a lot bigger or smaller. We can go in here. Let's go back to my code here. And we can say that this is a button large, LG, and save that. Go back. Now my button's way bigger, right? And we can set the size of the buttons. We can make buttons span the entire page if we wanted to. We just set the button to be a block, basically make it a block level element so it spans the entire page. We can disable buttons as well. There's all kinds of stuff we could do with buttons. They're fun. Let's talk about grouping some buttons together. So this is a really cool effect that a lot of people use, especially for navigation bars and whatnot. So I'm going to show you how to create a button group. Let's actually get rid of these buttons real quick. And let's create a new button group. And the way we do that is we create a div with a class equal to, you guessed it, btn-group. And then inside this div, we create a bunch of buttons. Button type equals button class equals, we'll make these primaries. And we'll say left. And then we'll put a couple in there. We'll say this is going to be center. And this will be right. We'll save that. We'll see what that looks like here on my screen. So now we have a button group. Notice that I have rounded edges on the left and the right of the button group, and it's one contained element, which is great. We can put as many of these buttons in there as we want. We can have tons of buttons. We can also create the button group as a large button group. Or a small button group or medium button group. And here's the way we do that. Just inside the class for button group, we would just do button group LG for large. Let's save that and see what that looks like. See what the difference is there. So now the button group is much bigger. Okay. Perfect. We can create a vertical button group. All we do is we change this. We just change one of the classes. Let's go back. Button group large. Let's change it to, instead of button group, let's make it button group vertical. Okay, save. And now we have a vertical button group. Now look at this. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. This just makes it so incredibly easy. Let's say we want the button group to be a horizontal button group that spans across the entire page instead of, just does its own thing. Let's do that. Instead of LG, let's do justified. Save. Oh, that was weird. Let's see. For some reason, it's deciding not to do that. Am I inside of another div? No, justified. Button group, justified. Yeah, that's not working. That's weird. But anyway, so you can see how easy it is to change things up and to modify stuff on the fly. That's why Bootstrap is really, really helpful and important. Let's refresh that. There we go. All right. We can also create buttons with drop-down menus. We can have split buttons where there's a button and then there's a little arrow next to the button. All kinds of stuff. Check out the button pages. All right, let's look at glyph cons. Glyphcons are like little icons. It's pretty easy stuff, stuff like this. Let's go here. So this would be a glyphcon, right? So I have a paragraph, it just says element or envelope icon, and then a span class equals glyphcon hyphen envelope. The nice thing is, instead of having to bring in like we did with icons in WebDev 1, instead of linking to Google's icons and all that stuff, Bootstrap has its own set of icons that we can use, right? Just like that. And we can do all kinds of stuff with them. We can make them links, we can make them buttons, we can do whatever we want with icons. All right, badges and labels. So badges and labels are pretty easy. Basically, all they are, let's open up here. So this would be a badge. This would allow us to add a little number next to, kind of like an alert next to a link. Let me show you what that looks like. So notice I have this link, this news link, and I have a little 5 next to it. That alert just means I have 5 updates or whatever inside of that news link. And we can wrap that inside of a button, do all that stuff. So, and labels are great because labels are kind of like alerts, but they can go like full block right next to the element. So let's create an H3. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Let's create an H3 with a label. I'll put that right here, save. And basically all we're doing is we're doing the same thing as we did with the badge. Instead, we're using label class, right? And save that, and we'll go to the page and see what our label looks like. And that's a label right next to it. It's not, it's not clickable. There's nothing. It's just telling me that this is new content. We can put whatever we want inside of labels. All right, let's look at progress bars. Progress bars are fantastic. I love progress bars. But there's a lot that goes into creating a progress bar, and I will try to explain as much of this as I can. Just bear with me. Now, progress bars aren't really going to matter until we start learning JavaScript. Once we get into JavaScript, then we'll want to know how to create progress bars for all the page elements that are going on, or all the programming stuff that's going on our page. But like, let's say for example, we create a div, we give it the class of progress to indicate that it is a progress bar, and then we create another div with a progress bar class. Its role is progress bar, and then we have this aria value now 70, meaning where is it now? How much of the progress bar is filled there? And then we have the volume minimum 0, volume maximum 100, and the style, it's going to be 70% of the page, right? And then we can say, only 77 or 70% complete. There we go. So I'm going to save that. Let's take a look and see what that progress bar looks like. And there it is. It's spanning the page. It's only about 70% complete. And we can update. The nice thing about JavaScript is we can update the value of this progress bar as things happen, right? And this is pretty fantastic. And there's all kinds of stuff we could do with progress bars. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Let's talk about pagination. Pagination it basically allows us to have buttons, a group of buttons, where when we click the buttons, it changes content on the page, right? So we can do something that looks somewhat like this. Let's do just like that, and let's tab all that in. So basically what we have is we have a list or an unordered list called pagination, and inside the pagination list we have all these list items to all the different pages that we would create, right? And then we have one indicated as active, meaning it's going to be highlighted when we first look at it. So I'm going to save and show you what that looks like. Where is it? Where did that go? Did I not save it? Control S. Okay. Oh, it's inside of... Where is this div going? Interesting. This is an extra div that I don't need. That's weird. Control save. Go back here and refresh. Oh, you know what? I think the page is getting a little bit crowded. That's probably what's going on. There's going to be an error somewhere in here, and I don't feel like going through and trying to find it. So we'll just clean this page up, and then we'll go back. There we go. So now we have a page menu where we can click, and it'll take us to the new pages based on what we click. And we can even make this set, use JavaScript to tie this to the same page and just have different images that pull up whenever we click the button, right? And so this is a way we can create a kind of like an image gallery right there on the page. And there's all kinds of stuff you could do. Same thing, you can make them bigger, you can make them smaller, you can change their color, all that stuff. So the same thing with pagination, we can do something called pager. And pager basically allows us to do previous and next buttons on our page. So let's take a look at that. Let's get rid of this pagination stuff. And so a pager is basically the same thing. Like I said, it is an unordered list, right, with a class of pager, and then we give the options there. And usually it's previous or next. Save that, and let's take a look. So now we have previous and next button, so we can go to the previous or next result in the slide or the next page or whatnot. Okay, and we can also use some code to separate them so that they're on either side of the page if we want to do it that way. All right, list groups. That's pretty easy stuff. You can go ahead and look at list groups yourself. I'm not going to go over that. But let's take a look at, no, I'm not going to do panels either. This stuff is pretty self-explanatory. You can look at that on your own. We've covered a lot so far in this video. Just remember that all I'm doing with these videos now, at this point, I'm not really teaching you anything new. All I'm doing is showing you how to create cool stuff using what Bootstrap already gives us. And if you've noticed, basically all we're doing is we're just utilizing the classes that are available in Bootstrap to make something new. So once you put enough of these tools in your toolbox, you'll be able to make anything you want and any page that you want. So I'm going to cut this video here, let you get to work on your assignments for this week. We're creating some really cool website, or a really cool website this week. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm going to let you get started. Thank you for paying attention, and I will see you next time.